I returned to my old school, not exactly my school to be precise, since I had never actually studied a single day on this campus. Still, it belonged to the same institution. As my footsteps landed on the broken tiles scattered across the hallway, shards of gravel crunched beneath my shoes, echoing eerily through the hollow corridors. The entire building had been left to decay, forgotten by time and reclaimed by silence. This place had once served as the original campus, long before the student population grew too large and the maintenance costs for these aging structures became too high. Eventually, the school board decided to invest in a new campus, the one I now attended, leaving this one behind. At first, it wasn't completely abandoned. Junior students still studied here before transferring to the new facility in their later years. But all of that changed 3 years ago. A student had died here. Some said it was suicide, born from a broken heart. Others whispered it had been an accident, that he had taken drugs and fallen from the science building. But the version most people clung to was darker, unsettling even in how calmly it was repeated. They said he had performed a ritual, and that the ritual turned on him. No one knew for sure. Rumors grew like weeds in the void the truth left behind. The most persistent one was the reason Tom and I had come here tonight. According to the legend, during the full moon, if someone stood alone in any empty room of this old campus and made a wish, that wish would come true. People talked about students raising their GPA overnight, winning the hearts of their crushes, or suddenly becoming popular. Veronica, who returned after summer break having lost 10 kilograms and gained a following of admirers. Mr. Jackson, a teacher, who unexpectedly found love at 45 and got married soon after. The ritual always began the same way, with a whispered invocation. Dear, the name of the student who fell from the science building, I wish to. But there was one strict warning tied to the ritual. Never, under any circumstances, say I wish to take your scepter and authority. According to the rumor, anyone foolish enough to do that would supposedly inherit his fate. Take his turn, whatever that meant. Neither Tom nor I believed the stories. We weren't here out of hope or faith, but because Tom had ridiculed the rumor in front of the whole class. I'd agreed with him, but he'd shot back that I was just copying him to save face, that I didn't really believe anything and just wanted attention. To prove him wrong, I declared I was willing to go one step further. I would even speak the forbidden phrase. And so, that's why we were here, stepping into the abandoned campus beneath the pale, watchful eye of the full moon. The place was silent. Still, the kind of silence that didn't just fill the air, but pressed against your skin like cold mist. The empty hallways held nothing but the sound of our footsteps, dry, deliberate echoes that bounced off the peeling walls and broken lockers. We used only one phone flashlight between us, the narrow beam slicing through the darkness as we moved carefully, avoiding the windows whenever possible. The fall had happened near the science building, and since then, security had become strict. Each night, a guard patrolled the grounds. If we were caught here, we'd be in serious trouble. We pushed deeper into the campus, weaving past toppled chairs, collapsed ceiling tiles, and forgotten posters that clung to the walls like faded memories. Eventually, we stopped in front of a classroom door, its glass cracked like a spiderweb. Moonlight poured in through the broken windows and spilled across the dusty floor inside, casting long, slanted shadows that danced with the drifting dust. This was it. According to the ritual, I had to be alone in the room when I made the wish. Alone, but loud enough for Tom to hear from outside. That was part of our agreement. I would recite the words. I would speak even the forbidden sentence just to prove I wasn't scared, that I wasn't pretending. Tom stood outside the door with a smug grin on his face, teasing me one last time, suggesting I could still back out, that I could admit I was afraid. He'd repeated that challenge multiple times on the way here, needling me just enough to get under my skin. I rolled my eyes at him, stepped across the threshold, and closed the door behind me. I read the spell out loud. Dear, I wish to take your scepter and authority. I waited. Nothing happened. I laughed, loud and hard. Tom? Did you hear that? I actually said it? Silence. Tom? I called again, louder. Still no answer. I opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. No one was there. At first, I thought he was playing a prank. Classic Tom. I wandered the hallway, calling his name. But the longer I searched, the more uneasy I became. The darkness felt heavier now, and the once familiar corridors twisted into unfamiliar shapes. Every direction looked the same. I pulled out my phone and dialed Tom. He picked up. Where are you? I asked. The security guard showed up, he whispered quickly. I had to run. I managed to lose him. I'm waiting for you now. Just walk to the end of the hallway and follow the staircase down. There's an emergency exit there. I'll meet you outside, he said in deep voice. Following his instructions, I found the staircase. It spiraled downward endlessly, each step echoing with a hollow clang. Cobwebs brushed against my face, and dust filled the air, burning my eyes and making it hard to breathe. I was sweating, my entire body sticky and aching, ready to give up and turn back. Then I heard his voice, faint, calling my name. I picked up my pace. My legs burned, but I didn't stop until I saw the emergency door. I pushed it open, and the night air rushed over me like a wave of relief. Tom was there, just as he said. Behind him stood a short wall at the edge of the property. He smiled, but then frowned and complained. Took you long enough. I've been waiting forever. We need to get out of here before the guard comes back. With surprising ease, he climbed onto the wall and reached down, offering me his hand. I ran to him and stretched my arm upward. Just as our fingers nearly touched, I was yanked backward with brute force. I turned around in panic, expecting the guard. It wasn't. It was another Tom. He had his arms wrapped tightly around my waist, screaming my name in pure desperation. My blood turned to ice. I turned back. The Tom on the wall was gone. The wall itself was gone. We weren't on the ground anymore. We were standing on the rooftop of the science building. Confused and shaking, I looked around as the real Tom punched me hard in the face, his eyes wild with fear. You idiot! What were you doing? He screamed, gripping my hand tightly and dragging me toward the rooftop door. I couldn't even respond. My thoughts were a haze. Tom's voice was unusually loud, echoing through the empty halls as we ran. Moments later, the security guard spotted us and rushed over, furious. He escorted us off the campus, barking at us the entire time. When I finally got home and stepped into the shower, I looked into the mirror. Around my eyes were deep red marks, like hands had been covering them. Hard. For a long time. The next day at school, Tom told me everything. He said I had never come out of the classroom. He waited and teased me from the hallway, but I didn't answer. When he peeked inside, I was gone. He searched the building and finally saw me climbing the stairs toward the science building rooftop. I moved strangely, silent and quick, like I wasn't even myself. He ran after me, calling my name, but I didn't turn around. When he reached the rooftop, I was standing at the edge, one foot lifted like I was going to step off. He tackled me just in time. The place where I thought I saw the wall, that wasn't real. There was no wall. just a rooftop, just a ledge, and a fall. Exactly where the student had died. Exactly the same place. I've been working at this school for almost 10 years, and over the years, I've heard countless horror stories and unsettling rumors. Some are spine-chilling, others simply ridiculous. A few even went viral among the students, sparking so much fear that many refused to enter the library alone. Eventually, the school administration had to issue an official announcement just to stop the spread of those stories. To be honest, most of these tales make me oddly proud of my students. Their creativity is impressive, painting our otherwise ordinary school with a mysterious, almost otherworldly hue. I never truly believed in any of it, but a few strange experiences have made me doubt my own certainty. One evening, I stayed behind after school to prepare teaching materials for the next day. My wife was also working late, so I planned to wait for her and head home together. As I locked up the office and walked toward the parking lot, I passed one of the classrooms. The light was still on, and through the glass window I saw a student sitting alone inside. Concerned, I turned back to check in. But when I opened the door, the room was completely empty. Not a single soul. The light flickered once, then steadied again. I stood there for a few moments, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. Then I quietly switched off the light, closed the door, and walked away. These kinds of small incidents happen more often than you'd think. I believe other teachers have encountered similar things from time to time, but there's an unspoken agreement among us, a silent understanding, to never talk about them. But sometimes, what happens cannot be explained or ignored. It was just a normal school day. I was walking toward the meeting room. During class hours, the hallways are eerily quiet. Every student is supposed to be in their classroom. As I passed through the silent corridor, I saw a student collapsed in a corner. She looked pale and lifeless. Without hesitation, I picked her up and carried her to the infirmary. The school nurse wasn't there, so I gently laid the student on the bed and stepped outside to look for help. As I opened the infirmary door, I found the nurse standing just outside. I told her what had happened and brought her inside. But the student was gone. We searched the entire room. Nothing. No signs that anyone had been there. I tried to recall the girl's face, her name, even the color of her uniform. But the more I tried to remember, the more the details slipped away. Her features blurred in my mind until I couldn't even recall whether it was a girl or a boy. All that remained was a heavy silence and a coldness that clung to my skin. Another day came. As I walked down a dimly lit hallway, I suddenly heard someone behind me call out, "Teacher." I froze, turned around. No one was there. I told myself it was just a prank, maybe a student hiding somewhere. I glanced into the nearby classroom, but it was completely empty. Then it hit me. That was the same room where I had once seen someone sitting alone. I didn't linger this time. I turned and walked quickly toward the exit. My footsteps echoed far too loudly in the empty hallway, as if the building itself was listening. Somewhere in this school, something lingers, watching, waiting, whispering.
I believe every school has its own forbidden place, like the library, a classroom that's never opened, or a locked storage room, each with its own eerie legend. In my school, it was the toilet. The toilet sits at the far end of the school, past the computer room and beside a storage room I'd never paid attention to. Perched awkwardly on a steep slope, it feels cut off, almost like it was never meant to be part of the school. Hidden behind other rooms and far from both entrances, it's nearly invisible from the main hallways. A tall fence surrounds the area, and the slope seems to push the building away, as if trying to forget it. I'd heard about the toilet since enrolling, but never had a reason to go. When I finally approached it, I noticed old desks and chairs piled behind it like a dumping ground. Oddly, the toilet's front door faces the road, making it visible from outside. That's why I never believed the ghost stories. Passing by it each morning always reassured me. I figured the rumors were just excuses for students to skip class or hang out undisturbed. Still, the stories were plenty. Blood on the walls, even a grave buried beneath. I never thought I'd actually use this toilet. But the other one had a long line, and the brake bell was about to ring. Reluctantly, I stepped in. It was surprisingly clean and dry, probably from lack of use. A large cubicle stood ahead with no toilet seat, just a dripping faucet and a plastic bucket beneath. Water hit the bucket with a soft, steady rhythm. To the left were 3 small cubicles and 3 sinks with square mirrors between them and the large cubicle. A single light above the sinks glowed dimly, and sunlight filtered in through small upper windows, enough to gently light the room. I'm humming a song, my arms swinging back and forth, feeling like I'm having a private moment in the midst of the crowded school. Maybe I was swinging my arms too hard. Before I even realized it, my phone slipped out of my hand and fell to the floor, sliding into the middle cubicle. I quickly approached the middle cubicle and discovered that the door was closed, with the lock turned to red, meaning someone was inside. However, the person inside didn't say a word. I could see my phone through the small gap under the door. Usually the toilet door has a gap and doesn't seal completely, and it only slides about 2 inches, meaning I could easily reach in and grab my phone if I stretched my hand into the cubicle. I hold my breath, waiting for the person inside to say something first, but no one responds. Embarrassment creeps in. I don't want to invade someone's private space. After a moment of hesitation, I decide to break the silence. I apologize and politely ask if they can pass my phone back to me. No response. The quiet lingers, unnatural and heavy. The only sound is my own voice, echoing slightly in the empty restroom. I realize maybe the lock is loose and the door latched shut on its own. I believe the previous user must have slammed the door too hard when leaving, causing the faulty lock to engage by itself. I listen carefully. Nothing. The only thing I can hear is my own breathing. Slowly, I bend down and peek through the gap beneath the door. The white ceramic toilet comes into view, its smooth surface reflecting the dim light. I see the base of the toilet, empty. No one is inside. Relief washes over me. Stretching out my arm, I reach for my phone. I successfully grab my phone and stand up, quickly checking the screen. Luckily, the screen protector did its job. There isn't a single scratch. Letting out a small sigh of relief, I slip the phone back into my pocket and step into the cubicle beside it. After finishing, I look down while pulling up my pants and freeze. A shadow stretches across the floor. It shouldn't be there. The light source is behind me, and there's no one else in the restroom. I blink, wanting to check again. The shadow is gone. I must be imagining things. My mind is playing tricks on me. Shaking my head, I let out a small laugh at myself. I open the cubicle door and walk over to the sink to wash my hands. The cold water rushes over my fingers. My nerves slowly unwind. Then, the sound of a toilet flushing echoes through the restroom. I freeze. This restroom doesn't have automatic toilets. I check the mirror. The reflection shows the cubicles behind me. The first and last cubicle doors stand wide open. Only the middle cubicle remains closed, its lock still showing red. But just now, I saw it with my own eyes. The middle cubicle was locked, yet empty. No one was inside. Even if someone had entered the restroom while I wasn't looking, they wouldn't have chosen that cubicle, because no one can unlock it from the outside. My chest tightens. As if to confirm my growing suspicion, the middle cubicle flushes again. The sound bursts through the silence, louder this time, echoing off the tiled walls. I grip the edge of the sink, my fingers turning cold under the running water. This isn't possible. There's no one inside. There can't be. I take a deep breath and slowly lift my gaze to check the mirror, my heart pounding. My eyes widen. What I see is something I will never forget. The lock on the middle cubicle door is slowly turning from red to green. A scream rips from my throat, one I never expected myself to make. It sounds raw, broken, almost inhuman. I bolt. I don't look back. The wind howls past my ears as I sprint down the corridor. I only stop when I reach the computer room, gasping for breath. My chest heaves as I turn to stare at the restroom, waiting, watching. The bell rings. No one comes out. There is only one straight corridor from the restroom to the computer room. I'm certain. No one passed me when I ran. If someone had been inside, they should have come out after me, but they didn't. And I saw no one. The restroom sits there, silent and untouched. I've always considered myself a bold girl. I never believed in ghost stories about haunted toilets. But after this experience, something changed. Every morning, when I cycle to school, I can see the restroom from the straight road outside the campus. And every morning, without thinking, I avert my gaze and pedal faster, as if putting distance between me and that place will erase what happened. But no matter how fast I go, the memory lingers.